Good afternoon, everyone. Bob Pompiani here at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. This is a Tomlin Tuesday, and thank you for joining us here on KDK Plus and all the Steeler digital platforms, wherever you may be. And the Steelers, 3-0, looking to make it 4-0 with a trip to Indianapolis. A big win for the team this week. Again, their defense outstanding, third straight game with 10 or fewer points allowed. The offense came to life. Justin Fields won a game from the pocket with some really tremendous throws in the middle of the field. The Colts coming off a big win for them. They were 0-2. They beat the Bears. They're 1-2, and they pose some problems with some of the people they have on their offense, specifically Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson, who has a lot of talent but has been interception prone. So we'll talk about what Mike Tomlin has in store for them and generally some of the injury situations all coming up now because Mike Tomlin is ready for his Tuesday press conference.
Good afternoon. Excited about a new week and the challenges that it presents. I just think that's one of the things that's awesome about our game and our business at this level. The variables are different week in and week out, and I'm excited about turning the page with this group and getting hyper-focused on the things that are going to be really relevant in terms of us securing victory this week. But before I get to that, I'll quickly review our last performance and talk about some of the things that we thought was significant in that matchup. As we stood in here last week and talked, styles make fights. We knew it would be an entertaining game, a competitive game. Some similarities between the two teams I really thought was significant. Defenses were led by edge rush tandems. They had a chance to change the trajectory of the game. I'm glad it was ours. Both teams got a commitment to running the football. I thought we did a nice job of minimizing theirs. I thought ours kind of revealed itself as the game wore on. Obviously, it was tough sledding early. We anticipated that. They got a really good defense. But I thought that 4-minute possession at the end was kind of indicative of our commitment to pounding away at it until we had a breakthrough. And I thought there in the waning moments of the game, we found our breakthrough. But there was a lot to be excited about in the game. There's also a lot to work on. In the special teams game, I can't say enough about Corliss Waitman at punter for us. Man, this guy's gotten on a moving train, and I thought he did a nice job of flipping the field and upholding his end of the bargain. We've had some turnover in some of that space. I thought we had 2 or 3 new guys on punt team, and I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge those contributions from a coach's perspective as you check all the boxes in preparation. When you got new people on your punt team, that has a lot of your attention. It might not get a lot of attention, but as a coach, it has yours. And I just thought some of those guys that were new contributors to special teams, Rodney Williams got elevated, for example, had a tackle on kickoff, was very reliable in the punt game, as an example of what I'm talking about in those spaces. Offensively, we didn't start with the level of fluidity that I would like. We got to get that solved and get it solved quickly. I think particularly at the early stages of the season, as you pursue and attain victory, you better continually work on the things that could be troublesome for you as you continue through the journey. And lack of fluidity in our starts, 3 and outs and things of that nature just doesn't tee us up to play the type of ball that we desire to play. Thankfully, we were in our home venue and our defense was playing really good there at the early stages of the game to minimize some of that. We're not assured of those things, particularly as we get into a hostile environment this week in Indy. And so that has our attention in terms of areas of needed improvement or work. Defensively, great defenses communicate, great defenses specialize in terms of a variety of personnel groups and schematics within those variety of personnel groups, and we just got to continue to work in those spaces. We've had some success, but we've also had some real JV moments, if you will. The longest run of the day was 13 yards. That happened when we had 10 guys on the field because of our inability to exchange people appropriately and handle some of those things that really tee up good defenses, as I mentioned. And so although we're playing good ball, it's still about us. It's still about how we function. It's still about utilizing the players that are available to us and in their talents and formulating a plan that allows us to do the desired job. From a health standpoint, I'll hit on a few things. Pruitt will probably still be out this week with his knee injury. Corey Trice looks to be out with the hamstring injury that he sustained in game. Alex Highsmith looks to be out with the groin injury that he sustained in game. Some guys whose participation is in question, and we'll let their participation, the quality of that participation, and when that participation ticks up be our guide in terms of planning with these people. Jaylen Warren and Isaac. Isaac is working his way back in the offensive line. We'll see what his participation looks like this week, and let the quality and amount of that participation be our guide in terms of his participation. And in the meanwhile, when he's not participating, we'll continue to do some of the things that we did at left guard last week in terms of Spencer and Mason both getting work and watching those guys throughout the week to kind of decide how we divvy up the labor based on that performance. And obviously that discussion is exclusive or aside from Isaac's availability. Still very much in the same place with Russ this week as we were last week, at least at the beginning of the week. I just met with him and our head athletic trainer and talked about what tomorrow looks like. Tomorrow is a limited participation day from a scheduling perspective. He had a good workout today. We'll see how he feels in the morning, but I'm not expecting him to be a full participant tomorrow. And so as we walk in the building tomorrow, I want Justin singularly focused on starting for us and doing what's required to be ready to do that. And so although I'm sure you got questions, I probably got similar answers that I had a week ago, and we'll see where the week leads us. If his availability or the quality of his practice participation picks up, maybe we'll consider that later in the week. If it doesn't, then it won't be a consideration, and we'll just continue with where we are right now. And so that's just the status of not only him, but our intentions regarding Justin as I stand here today in preparation for this game. Again, as I mentioned, very similar to last week, very similar to the week before. Now turning my attention toward the Indianapolis Colts, their team that's coming off of a big victory last week. If you look at them offensively, first and foremost, we got to deal with Jonathan Taylor. He is super talented, but we've seen some talented backs. Bijan is super talented. J.K. is super talented, and that just goes to show you how competitive this league is week in and week out, man. We got a big challenge in Jonathan Taylor. I think that challenge is intensified because of Richardson's mobility and their willingness to use schematics regarding Richardson's mobility. And so, man, it is a big run game emphasis for us as I sit here right now at the early outset of the week, looking at things that they do well and the things that we need to do well. Obviously, man, they got a talented receiving core that supplements that run game. Pierce, man, is getting behind secondaries. Man, he has always done it. He did it at the University of Cincinnati. I was at his pro day and studied him. They drafted him to do it, and he's been behind defenses the whole time he's in the league. I think he leads the NFL in plus 40-yard plays at this juncture in a short period of time. Man, Richardson has the arm strength to really highlight that component of his game. We got to keep a lid on it. You don't keep a lid on it, you're going to have major problems playing anyone, but particularly a group like this in their venue. You got to make them earn it. You can't allow them to get yards in chunks. Michael Pittman is a high-volume catch guy, a front-side route runner, good versus zone, good versus man, good in weighty moments and chain-moving circumstances. They got some talented young people like Downs and others that supplement those two. They just do a really good job with their eligibles, spreading the ball around. They got a diverse group with various kinds of talent that you have to plan for, not only in terms of personnel matchups, but the schematic component. They got a really diverse offense in terms of RPO football and run-pass options. They don't allow you to stack the box in an effort to minimize Taylor. You got to play the cat and mouse game with them in terms of some of those things. And so I respect the schematic component of the matchup as well. On the defensive side of the ball, you know, it's Gus Bradley, man. He's a been there, done that guy. We've been in some circumstances against him. Got a lot of respect for his approach to ball and how he works. Obviously, they've had some issues in terms of stopping the run, but when you watch their tape, you really see Gus's intentions in terms of rectifying that. Man, they were really sound last week. They were in gaps They were aggressive. I think that is indicative of his defenses. I got a lot of respect for a lot of the people up front. Kwity Paye and Grover, I think, provide the standard for them on the edge and on the inside, but they play a lot of people. They run waves of D linemen and rushmen at you. That's one of the signatures of their attack. At the linebacker level, man, Franklin, I just got a lot of respect for, man. That's a homegrown talent. They took him late in the draft in 2018 just to watch his role evolve over his time there. 6th-round pick that became a core teamer, that became a situational defender, that became a green dot defender. He's a high-volume tackler, 160 tackles, 170 tackles in the last 2 years specifically. He's a really good blitzer. He's just good in space, vertical space, horizontal space. They employed a Tampa 2 that requires him to run down the middle of the field. He's good at that. He's good in 3 deep and underneath coverage. He is just a well-rounded player. That's a big-time catalyst for a lot of what goes on with them. Kenny Moore at outside corner and nickel is another guy that's homegrown, has played a lot of quality football there, that's a splash playmaker. He controls the perimeter play. Wide receiver screens, bubble screens, and things of that nature that goes on out in that nickel space. His talents and his experience make that very difficult. He's very good in terms of fitting in the run game and blitzing. They asked him to blitz quite a bit. He's just got a well-rounded game. He's a veteran guy. He's got good vision. He turns up in a lot of circumstances. Really enjoyed watching their safety tandem, although I've been watching them for a couple of years. Young guys. I see their evolution. Both guys are high-volume tacklers and making a bunch of splash plays. Both guys had major interceptions against us when we played in Indy last year. Respect that component of the matchup, but they're not the same players they were. They're evolving. I see it. Nick Cross in particular is making a bunch of plays. In the run game, he's a high-volume tackler. He's a good cover man. He's oftentimes down covering tight ends and things of that nature in one-dimensional passing circumstances. So they got a well-balanced group on both sides of the ball. They're coming off of a victory. We're playing them in their venue. They got quarterback mobility and a top-notch runner. There's a lot of things that have our attentions, and appropriately so, at the beginning of the week as we begin to lay a foundational plan and ready our guys for the challenges of the week. As I mentioned at the beginning, though, it's the National Football League. I wouldn't expect anything else. I'm excited about readying this group and growing in all the appropriate ways as we get ready for this action. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Mike, I know it wasn't the way you planned it, but what did you see from Broderick? Did he bounce back into a suitable fashion?
He did, but I'm not surprised by that. Broderick has a great deal of confidence in himself, particularly for a young guy. The performance was what it was in Denver. He didn't make excuses or seek comfort. He simply acknowledged it and went back to work. And I just think when you take that approach, you really tee yourself up for the appropriate bounce back, and he did.
Mike, is Jalen's injury related to the hamstring issue you had earlier?
No, it is not. He was limping in game. In the latter part of the game, I kind of noticed it, and I pulled him from the game because I know Jalen's tough. He's just going to go. And so we'll see where his availability is as we work this week. I'd imagine he's going to be somewhat limited tomorrow, and we'll see the trajectory of it in terms of including him or no in planning.
Mike, now that you're 3 games in, what more do you need to see from Justin? Why not name him the starting quarterback going forward?
Because there's no need. I explained to you the variables of the week. It has not changed. He's going to walk in this building with that mindset tomorrow. And so I really, there's no need to. Sometimes in this business, man, there's a myriad of complex decisions that need to be made. I've learned to make them when it's appropriate and it's not necessary as we sit here right now. When Russ gets to an appropriate point of health and we have a decision to make, I'll make it and I'll announce it and I'll be really transparent about it. But until then, I don't care how many ways you guys ask me. I got no intentions of making the decision that's unnecessary at this juncture.
Mike, related to that, what is that appropriate point of health or healthy that Russell has to hit for you to make that decision?
We'll know when we get there. He'll not only be healthy in terms of keeping himself safe, but he'll be healthy in terms of being able to be productive and do the things that he needs to do and we need him to do.
Has Justin Fields shown you some things that changed that point for you? You know, if he had struggled compared to playing pretty well.
No question, Justin has played well, and that's exciting for him and for us. But I'm not surprised by that, and I hadn't looked at it in terms of the decision making because it's not time yet.
Mike, what is it that you like most about him that you've seen? Justin.
You know, as I mentioned in here repeatedly, you know, I like his steady demeanor. I like that in a leader. He doesn't ride the emotional roller coaster when things are going good, when things are going bad. Guys can rally around that. He's steady. He's a competitor, man. He likes to compete. He doesn't turn down things. He's aggressive in play, scrambling and so forth. It's just been fun to get to know him, and not only know him as a guy, but know him as a competitor.
What you said in your opening statements about hoping to be more fluid earlier than what you were against the Chargers, how much is that maybe looking for more chunk plays earlier, and how much is trusting Justin more, knowing him more?
No, you're a lot more optimistic than I am. I'm just talking about converting the first third down or two. Okay, we started the game with 2 3-and-outs. I'm interested in converting third downs when I'm talking about starting with more fluidity.
But does knowing Justin more and seeing his good results so far lend you to maybe attacking downfield more, looking for big chunk plays more?
Again, I understand your question, but when I made that statement, I was thinking specifically about converting third downs and not warming up to that component of the game. 3-and-outs are not good for field positioning and establishing the right kind of mojo early in games.
Mike, you often talk about positionless football. Typically, that's seen more often on the defensive side of things than the offensive side. You had some injuries in game on Sunday. You're able to use Cordero Patterson out wide as a receiver in the backfield. Mm-hmm. That flexibility that he gives you, is that kind of unique for an offensive skill player?
It is unique, but it's something that we covet all the time. And, you know, I got a lot of respect for CP and his talents. We had intended to utilize him in both. It wasn't a reactionary plan. We only went into the game with 4 receivers because we had a plan for him to play both positions in game. And that just speaks to his talents, but not only his talents, but his football intellect to be able to carry a menu like that. And so he's exciting in that way. But Connor Hayward is another offensive guy that plays tight end and running back like things. I just think anytime that you got guys with position flexibility, with fluidity in terms of the things that they can do, it makes it challenging to defend. And so hopefully that keeps growing.
Mike, your defensive line has been winning, especially a lot this past Sunday, but how much of your cornerbacks also played a role in keeping the run game and forcing guys back to the inside? You know,
They've done the job, but it's week to week at corner, man. I'm going to keep challenging those two. One's young and the other one's little, and so I like challenging them. But make no mistake, man, they're riding the wave that the front has provided. But we've invested a lot in resources and time into that group. And so we're not surprised by their effectiveness.
Mike, the decision to rotate Spencer and Mason, was that a pregame decision or was that performance-based in-game?
It was done all last week in preparation.
Mike, when you sent Vazon to try that 62-yarder with 6 seconds left, did you think the time would run out?
I didn't care. I sent him out there because I thought he was going to make it, to be quite honest with you. Most of the time, field goals usually take anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds. But I was less concerned about that component of it, and I was more concerned about potentially getting 3 points because I just got that level of confidence in Chris Boswell.
Mike, with Highsmith likely out, what have you seen from Leal out at the edge, and would he be kind of the third option out there?
He's been working at both spots anyway. Speaking of positional flexibility, man, Leal throughout team development has been playing outside linebacker and defensive line. He did some last year, so it's not anything new for him. And so really I don't view that as a significant issue in terms of him elevating and getting more opportunity. It's more of the same, really. It's probably more of what he desires to do because he definitively wants to play. This guy has had a good team development process, and I'm excited about what he's going to do with increased opportunities just as much as I am that Herbig did with his.
Nick Herbig, how much have you seen Nick Herbig kind of grow since he got in the building, especially the more time he spends around TJ?
That's been really consistent since he's been here. He's hardworking and humble, and I really think that tees up performance for him. But he also has ridiculous belief in self. and that's attractive to coaches. That's attractive to older players. He is not a guy that's ever scared.
A couple of throws that Justin made on Sunday, the touchdown throw and the one on the left sideline that picked up the big first down to Miller, had to be very precise to work as they did. Was that something that you saw in evaluating him out of college while you were evaluating him to bring him in, or is that something that he's improved, that precision that he's improved since he got here?
Very much so is something that we saw in draft prep, dating back to his days in Columbus. And that's often the case with us. Our interest in people in terms of pro personnel oftentimes can be traced back to draft evals, and that was a component of his game that was really impressive in Columbus, certainly.
Mike, what does Roman Wilson have to show in order to get a helmet on the knees?
He just got to keep working. It is very difficult to get on a move and train. All you got to do is look at Dean Lowry, for example. There's a veteran guy that missed a substantial amount of training camp, and it was the third game before he got a hat, although he's been healthy for 3 weeks. And so that gets multiplied when you're talking about a guy that has no NFL experience like Roman. And so my advice to Roman is to keep working and take that opportunity when that door is left ajar and to be ready when it is.
What has Mason showed you to garner those snaps, those rotational snaps in left guard?
He's a talented young guy. He's done a nice job in team development. He's had a lot of success in college, man. No stage is too big for him. He's not a blinker. He runs to the action. I like the finish mentality in his play. I think it's contagious. I think all of our guys, young guys, have that finish trait. I think that's why we were so excited about that collective, talking about he and Troy and Zach Frazier. They got that finishing trait that's able to form the makeup or the personality of a collective as they grow older together.
You brought up seeing Taylor after already seeing Bijan and J.K. Dobbins. What do you see in his skill set as opposed to those guys, and how do the Colts sort of block it up in the run game as opposed to what you just saw from the Chargers?
Man, he's got really good pick and vision. His burst is spectacular. His long speed is underrated. His ability to produce big plays with that is a major component of what he does. But the patience initially is Bijan-like. His burst is awesome. He's just got a well-rounded game. He needs no endorsement from me. He's been doing it at this level. He did it in Madison, Wisconsin. I imagine he did it on high school and Little League fields as well.
You mentioned it was tough sledding in the run game early on. Where would you like to see improvements to increase the efficiency on the ground?
I don't know that I'm necessarily looking for that. When you play good defenses, particularly at the early stages of the game, it's going to be tough. When they got guys like Derwin James spinning down into the box and blitzing off the edge and so forth, it's going to be tough. The key is to not absorb negativity where you're behind the chains where it affects the next down. And you better maintain your commitment to it in the effort to win the war of attrition. And so that was our mindset. You're not always going to have efficient runs early on, particularly when you're playing good people. They got scholarships too, as we say in this business.
Any more clarity on Troy's injury and how long he'll be out?
He's out this week. I hadn't looked at the clarity component of it. I meet with the docs tomorrow afternoon post-practice.
Mike, you guys targeted the middle part of the field twice as much as you had the previous two games combined. Was that more about the matchups and the things you guys saw in their defense, or more about Justin's growth in the offense?
Guys, as I've mentioned repeatedly in this process, man, at the early portions of the year when you got a small sample size, you can always have questions and perspectives like that. But really, we're just trying to do what's required to win games. And so sometimes there can be an appearance of personality that's inappropriate. Week one, we were playing in Atlanta. We were playing Jesse Bates and Simmons, two top-notch safeties, man. We didn't want to throw the ball to them. And so when we threw the ball, we threw it outside down the grass, for example. This past week, the Chargers play a bunch of split safety coverage, and so it's middle of the field open, so you have opportunities to attack the ball down the middle of the field. My answer to that is keep watching. We're just trying to do what it needs to be done to position ourselves for victory every week. It better require a skill set, a well-rounded skill set from everyone involved, and it better require some open-minded coaching. And so that's just our general approach. Our personality will be revealed the more we play. But as we stand right now, we're just not overly concerned with establishing personality. Sometimes you can be so fixated on that you're not doing what's required to win games. And from a coaching perspective, that's stupid.
Mike, you spoke about what you liked from what you've seen from Justin up to this point. What areas of his game do you want to see him improve in?
You know, I want him to see him improve in all areas, to be quite honest with you. You know, knowing what those areas of needed improvement are difficult sometimes when you don't have a shared experience. And so a component of me getting to know him is just maintaining that posture, challenging him to improve in all areas. And as we gain more experience together, I'll be able to narrow that focus on things that become repetitive or trending.
Mike, we saw these, when you get a new player such as a Patrick Queen, a green dot guy, is there an adjustment in terms of not so much assimilating into the defense, but with the players around him, and are you seeing it?
No question. Pat Queen is our defensive quarterback. And so, man, he has just as much of my energy as Justin and Russ. It was a challenge in the offseason from a coach's perspective, you know, getting quarterbacks solid on both sides of the ball. But the men that they are has made it a fun and rewarding process, too. They love football. They're articulate. They can speak it. They think fast on their feet. They're adaptable. They can adjust. Talking about the quarterbacks and Pat. It's been really fun, man. I'm excited about having him.
You were just in Indy late last season, but how much does Richardson change the whole approach to needing to defend their offense with his mobility?
You know, I don't necessarily have the answer to that as I stand here right now. I have so much prep in front of me this week, and he has a small sample size to study. I think this weekend will be his 8th start, and so I don't know that I am positioned to answer the significance of his presence and not. I'm really just focused on what his presence means.
Mike, are there any limitations on Najee? And what did you see from Aaron and from Ward in training camp that you liked?
Who?
The practice squad.
You ask about practice squad running backs.
Well, I mean, with injuries, obviously.
No limitations in Naj. Naj will be ready to rock and roll, so that probably makes the second part of the question less relevant.
Mike, obviously the organization has made a commitment to Cam Hayward with the contract, but is a game like he had Sunday indicative of why he can age well playing up front?
I don't think anybody is surprised by what Cam did last Sunday or what Cam has done. His talents are his talents. His commitment and his approach to work are equally as impressive. His leadership is as well in this building, in the community. He's a Walter Payton Man of the Year. I mean, you know, it's Cam Hayward.
Mike, you guys play as many tight games as anybody in the league, maybe more than anybody. Does having success in those games, does that get, when it's tight late, does that have create a vibe on the sideline, a level of confidence that you guys will find a way to get done?
I think you grow from the journey. Our business is to win games, and so we better win while we learn. I think you learn every week. You better be in position to do so. We better work to keep the lights on, and winning does that.
Well, I mean, but are you guys, I know you hate using the word comfort, but I mean, is there a level of confidence that when it's tight, that maybe because you guys play or in that situation so often, that maybe it gives you an advantage to you guys on the...
You're right. I hate to use the word comfortable. We come out of those circumstances because of what we do, not some mystical thing. And so we don't have rabbit's foots in our pocket. There's work to be done. I like the way that the guys do it. And that's just how we live.
Anyone else?
Mike, I got one more. You talked about, when you talked about Roman, you said it's hard for a guy to get on a moving train. You talked about Lowry, a veteran guy. In relation to the quarterback position, does Russ's resume such that those concerns aren't as heightened because he knows his first year in a new system?
Yes.
At one point, does the train get moving too fast for a guy like that to catch up?
I don't know, man. We'll know when we get there.
Anyone else? All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that's Mike Tomlin. Missy Matthews here joining me as we break down this press conference. And again, same plan as last week with the quarterbacks. That's the first thing people want to know about. Russell Wilson won't be full. Justin Fields will continue to be the starting quarterback, it appears, and no change to the depth chart either.
No, not at all. But I think not potentially having Alex Highsmith will be a tough one, but we can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we'll get into all those injuries, what it means, who has to step up, because a lot of guys on this team have stepped up. We'll take a look back at that big win against the Chargers, look ahead to the Colts and the problems they present. Remember, last year, Indianapolis beat the Steelers after Pittsburgh had a 13-0 lead in that game. So we'll talk about that and more as we continue right here on a Tomlin Tuesday. This is the Mike Tomlin Press Conference on KDK Plus and Steeler digital platforms.
Our fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today.
And the party is on at Actors Shore. Oh my, absolutely phenomenal. Interception on a kick to the goal line. Touchdown, Pittsburgh. That's just sensational. I can't even believe that I just saw what I saw. And he's sacked like T.J. Watt. You have to be here.
You know, I asked Broderick about this, a couple guys in the O-line specifically, a lot of movement there, a lot of injuries there. But how do you guys keep the chemistry with the guys on the field at the same time when so many new guys are coming in each and every week?
Well, what you see is it's organic, it's real. You know, guys genuinely care about each other. You know, it's not a selfish team. It's probably one of the least selfish teams I've been on. And so at every corner you see guys, you know, really investing in not only their betterment, but the betterment of their peers. And so it's just probably a culmination of just a lot of effort going on collectively. You know, everybody's doing it together, and so what you're seeing is a result of that. We go ones on ones, twos on twos, so you never see like this huge drop off of competition and practice, and I think that's key.
Does that come from the coaching staff? I mean, is that start at the
Sure.
very top?
I think it's intentional. You know, you can definitely tell when you're in an organization that values this guy and doesn't value anybody else. And this isn't one of those organizations. I think Coach Tomlin, he's made it very clear that our goal here is to win. That's our business. And so he doesn't care where good ideas come from. You know, and everybody chips in and puts their hand in the pile, understanding that as long as they can help us win, that they are valuable.
You guys have been cycling through a lot of bodies on special teams too, unfortunately, due to
That's right.
injuries. I mean, was last week a stressful one for Danny Smith, getting everybody up to speed? And
Danny Smith, stress? Never. He is, as long as he has his bubble gum, man, he's good to go. Special teams, you know, our game is adaptation. That's something that we have to do. And so guys who are available to play on special teams, it's because that they have that ability to adapt. And so collectively we adapt and we keep pushing.
Hi folks, welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Honor Museum.
Now this is the best era.
I couldn't agree more. Those teams were unstoppable.
The teams were really good in the 90s.
Come on, you couldn't catch those teams of the 2000s. Literally.
The 70s were the best.
No way, the 2000s.
Whoa, stop fighting. I think every era was pretty sweet.
You said it, kid. Hope you guys enjoyed yourselves.
Wait, you're T?
It has not changed. He's going to walk in this building with that mindset tomorrow. And so I really, there's no need to. Sometimes in this business, man, there's a myriad of complex decisions that need to be made. I've learned to make them when it's appropriate and it's not necessary as we sit here right now. When Russ gets to an appropriate point of health and we have a decision to make, I'll make it and I'll announce it and I'll be really transparent about it. But until then, I don't care how many ways you guys ask me. You know, I got no intentions of making a decision that's unnecessary at this juncture.
So that's Mike Tomlin talking about why he does not list Justin Fields as QB1. It's Russell Wilson. That's been the case since the beginning of camp, and don't look for that to change anytime soon. That does not mean that Fields is not looked at as the starter right now, because he is. And until Russell Wilson, you know, those calf injuries, who knows, you know, what level it is at this point, but he's still not a full participant. But all you have to know is the performance is good enough for the Steelers, the way Fields has been playing. And Missy, I thought the response drive after the Chargers scored on a 27, 29-yard touchdown pass was so important, because they just came right back, 3 third down conversions, and many of them were really good throws by Justin Fields.
And I think, after the game, Justin Fields was talking about how cool, calm, and collected he feels when he's out on the field here in Pittsburgh playing with this group. See being able to use his legs and get in the end zone there. And, of course, the pass, it was Yak by Kelvin Austin, but still making that throw. That was kind of the play that sealed the deal where you felt like, okay, we're in a good place here. And I think the connection with George Pickens, unfortunately in Denver, a lot of those things were negated by penalties. But I do think that guys are rallying around him. And as you said, Russell Wilson still is going to be limited tomorrow in practice, according to Coach Tomlin. So I think until we're stacking some full days in practice, the conversation is we're having him singularly focused as the starter. We're planning that way until there is a point where you would have to potentially change it.
And you looked at the video there, all those passes we just saw were right on the money. And that includes some of the stuff that people would consider maybe dink and dunk or checkdowns. Some of those plays are very significant in turning down and distance into something that you could work with. If the throw is off target and a guy has to turn around to get it, all of a sudden what could be a 7-yard gain turns into a 3-yard gain, and now you're 3rd and long again. So I think the precision of his passing, and more specifically this week, more so than the first two, I thought, in the middle of the field, everyone gets carried away with those pass charts, and you see it's always to the outside. This week, a lot of action in the middle. He was 8 for 11 for 126 in the middle of the field, and that to me is a big growth point of Justin Fields.
Yeah, I think there were 4 different receivers, and Cordell Patterson was one of them just because of the lack of depth they had there, that had at least 4 catches from him. So spreading the ball around, as you said, utilizing different parts of the field. And I think, as Coach Tomlin stressed later in the press conference, not getting off to a fast start, especially at home. You're going back on the road for the 3rd time in 4 weeks. They just got their first win at home against the Bears on Sunday, so that crowd's going to be into it.
Also, contributions, another point of emphasis has been the lack of a quote number 2 to George Pickens, but guys who are there made plays in this game. Specifically, Scotty Miller only had 2 catches, I think, but one was that 20-yarder. Asante Samuel was up to try to greet him there, and he turned it into 20 yards, a big first down on 3rd down. And then the 2 of them actually to Austin. One was 3rd and 14, I believe, in the middle of the field, and then the touchdown pass. I mean, those guys stepped up. They may not have the resumes of big names around the league, but when they're called upon, they seem to make plays.
Well, I think Coach, said it in training camp, and even said he went and talked to them about it in the wide receiver room. He said it week 1 during his press conference on, a Tuesday, that he had faith in those guys and what they were able to do. And they've been kind of plugging along and chugging along all summer with both quarterbacks. Obviously, Justin got extended time when Russ went down with that calf injury in Latrobe. So good to see that Arthur Smith is able to utilize so many different guys. I think, especially last year when you saw 19 in, you thought jet sweep immediately, and there's different ways that Arthur Smith is able to scheme guys open.
There's no question about that, and the speed is very much on the field with Calvin Austin. When he gets into those areas, he can turn what is a little gain into a touchdown, as he did last week with that 55-yarder. We'll continue here talking about the Steelers and the Colts as we look ahead to Indianapolis. Their win, what the Steelers have to be concerned about with the Colts at Lucas Oil Stadium. That's coming up next right here on the Mike Tomlin Press Conference Show.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
It's just going out and playing football and trusting in all of my film study and my instincts and my abilities to prepare throughout the week and get my body right to go out and prepare and make plays for my defense. We have so many guys on this defense that are capable of making plays, taking games over, and I'm just trying to be a small part of it.
Their style of play on offense and the challenges that it presents, how do you feel that you responded to that as a defense?
Good. Obviously, stopping the run. I don't have the stats up here, but it didn't seem like they ran for a lot. We're able to shut them down in the second half. Obviously, the backup quarterback went in, and when it gets to one-dimensional spots, we have so much depth on this defense in the back end and up front that we feel very confident with our pass rush and the guys in the back end to make some big plays when we need it.
You mentioned having fun out there. You guys held up to 0 yards in the second half. Just how much pride as a group do you take in that?
Huge. This week was 2 trains on the track. I mean, 2 top defenses coming in. We know they love to run the ball. We love stopping the run, and haven't looked at the film yet, but it seems like we outperformed today. But that's a hell of a football team, and it means nothing if we don't get back in the lab and learn from all this and keep going.
What does it feel like emotionally when the front is buzzing like that defensive front, and it just seems like you guys are pretty unstoppable at the line of scrimmage?
We're all just, we're a pack of hyenas. It's like you dangle a little bit of meat. It's just like everybody just wants a piece. So, I think it's a bunch of guys who are just hungry to get the sack first. I know TJ's going to try and fight me for half the sack.
I know the most important thing is winning, but you moved into second all time here in sacks. What does that mean to you?
It's not done by myself. I know the record's mine, but that's second. It's working with guys. It's communication. It's working on your technique.
Our fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today.
And the party is on at Acrisure. Oh my! Absolutely phenomenal. Interception on a pitch to the goal line. Touchdown Pittsburgh. That's just sensational. I can't even believe that I just saw what I saw. And he's sacked by T.J. Watt. You have to be here.
He did, but I'm not surprised by that. Broderick has a great deal of confidence in himself, particularly for a young guy. The performance was what it was in Denver. He didn't make excuses or seek comfort. He simply acknowledged it and went back to work. And I just think when you take that approach, you really tee yourself up for the appropriate bounce back, and he did.
Mike Tomlin talking about Broderick Jones. There are a couple of pancakes out there. Could have had an IHOP commercial for him because he was taking on Bosa, a pretty good one, and he leveled him to the ground on one of those occasions. And they needed to see that after what they saw in Denver with those 3 penalties in 6 plays.
I think, Coach Tomlin nailed it. The confidence that Broderick has in himself. He was clearly angry with himself and the fact that he got benched in Denver. Quickly went over to George Pickens, apologized, said, hey, that's on me because of the big play that kind of blew up that would have been nice to get some points there. But I think, he stood tall, talked to the media after the game, never backed down, never made excuses, talked all week about being prepared. And unfortunately, that injury to Troy on Friday during practice meant next man up. And for Broderick, he didn't have to wait long to get a chance to rebound.
No, and, also the Seumalo situation. I know there are a lot of injuries to this line. Last year, that was not a problem, luckily for them all season long. And now, Seumalo still, who knows if he's back or not, but, you saw Mason McCormick in there along with Spencer Anderson. You have Frazier, a rookie at center, who's been just terrific. And now Jones at right tackle, a position he probably would rather play the left side, but now he knows he's going to be in there like he was last year. So there's a lot of changes going on to this offensive line, and the response, based on what we've seen so far, has been very good.
Yeah, and I think one of the things is the depth that they have behind all of their starters, guys that they've drafted, even guys that have just been on the practice squad for a few years. But as you said, Isaac Seumalo still dealing with that pec injury. Him and Jalen Warren, Coach Tomlin said practice will determine their availability coming up for this week. But we know that it sounds like looking to be out on Sunday. Michael Pruitt, once again, knee injury. Corey Trice was hurt in game with a hamstring. And then the big one, Alex Highsmith, dealing with a groin injury once again.
Yeah, and we're seeing Najee Harris, who ran really hard in this game, I thought. And another guy, Missy, who did was Cordero Patterson. He's 33 years old, but he's big. And when he gets his legs going, Warren couldn't play up to the standards he wanted to play, so he comes in there, and I thought he was terrific. And no matter where you line him up, he seems to make contributions. Wide receiver, running back, special teams.
Well, knowing the limited number of wide receivers you started with at the beginning of the game, and Coach said afterwards that knowing that Cordero Patterson was there made them feel better because you can pretty much put him anywhere. But then Van Jefferson was down for a substantial amount of time with an eye injury, so it really was even, I talked to Calvin Austin yesterday, and I said, what was more tiring, Sunday's touchdown or the one in Vegas last year? And he said it was actually Sunday's because they were down a guy and it was the fourth quarter, and with the heat that he was really feeling it.
There's no question. And they all stepped up when they needed to. And it's interesting that, again, because of Patterson, they can go with 4 wide receivers, and they needed other positions to be filled, and so therefore that's how the decision. It may change this week when they go to Indianapolis. Who knows? And Roman Wilson is a guy who's getting closer, but Mike Tomlin made it sound like, okay, you got to show me more. And moving trains are a common theme with him, jumping on those moving trains. But he's going to be a guy they're going to look to eventually to be on the field and contribute.
Yeah, no doubt. There's a lot of excitement about him, but I think the fact he used the example of Dean Lowry, a veteran defensive lineman who has way more experience clearly than a rookie wide receiver, and how he had to wait his time after getting back on that moving train to be inserted into the lineup. I think Roman Wilson's going to have to wait a little bit too.
One guy who loves moving on any train is Nick Herbig, and he made a big presence last week after Alex Highsmith was injured in that game, and everybody knew he could, and he did immediately. We'll talk about what Herbig did and also look ahead to the Colts when we come back right here on Steeler digital platforms and KDK Plus. It's the Mike Tomlin Press Conference Show.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Honor Museum.
Now this is the best era.
I couldn't agree more. Those teams were unstoppable.
The teams were really good in the 90s.
Come on, you couldn't catch those teams of the 2000s. Literally.
The 70s were the best.
No way, the 2000s.
Whoa, stop fighting. I think every era was pretty sweet.
You said it, kid. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves.
Wait, your T?
Justin, for you guys on offense, how big of a moment was it to get that scoring drive right after the Chargers had scored their first one in the first half?
Yeah, it was huge. I think the offense, we did a great job responding, and we knew what kind of game it was going to be. So just proud of the guys out there for responding like we did, especially after they scored that first touchdown, like you said, and going down and putting the drive together. So it was good.
On that touchdown to Calvin, what were you looking for there? Can you talk about what happened and just, of course, how big that play was?
Yeah, of course, huge play. They were just in zone quarters, and you really just high-lowing that hook defender. The hook defender took GP underneath, and Calvin was right behind him. So great play call in that situation. Of course, you always appreciate the yards after the catch that Calvin got us, and of course it was a huge play for us.
Bigger picture, can you speak to what Calvin and Scotty Miller brought to the offense?
Yeah, those guys definitely stepped up today. Calvin doing everything on offense and special teams as well, and then Scotty too. I don't think he played last week, so just coming in, he had a big third down conversion for us, broken tackle with some yards, so they both played great today.
We just had good execution all around to target those areas.
How did it feel as an offense to be able to stretch the ball down the field more, have more of those big flat passing plays than you've had in the first 2 weeks?
That always feels good, but I feel like from a standpoint of execution is where we were having some issues, but today once we execute, I feel like those plays are always there and kind of been there, but whether it's an assignment missed here or there from somebody, we just weren't able to execute. But that's why each game is a new game. You go into each game with a new slate, so we were able to attack it today.
Calvin, it seemed like they were in that too high shell for most of the game. What kind of challenge did that present? How were you able to exploit it on your touchdown?
Sometimes with a too high shell, they want to try to keep everything in front. So you sometimes gotta capitalize on some rack right after the catch. So we've been emphasizing that all off season. So it kind of came into fruition here.
Did you
Steelers Style, presented by Neighborhood Ford Store, PNC, UPMC, and UPMC Health Plan. Watch our players, coaches, and special guests walk the runway to raise money for Steelers charities. Get your tickets at Steelers.com/SteelersStyle.
He's hardworking and humble, and I really think that tees up performance for him. But he also has ridiculous belief in self, and that's attractive to coaches. That's attractive to older players. He is not a guy that's ever scared.
Well, that sums up Nick Herbig, no question. He knows his role, but when his role expands, like it did this past week, he steps up big, and it seems like no matter when he gets into a game, he has an impact, the speed to the outside. Slater's really good over at that left side. His first strip sack was against that guy who's one of the best in the game right here.
Yeah, and he said, I got the ball out, and I was hoping that I could fall on it. Unfortunately, not that the sack wasn't great, but that would have been clutch to be able to help create that takeaway. But I think too, go back to the preseason. How many times did you say his name during the 3 preseason games? He was tied for the lead in the NFL with 3.5 sacks through that first portion. But being able to translate it and knowing that since Alex Highsmith went down that they could insert him in and being able to produce 2 sacks is huge.
It really is. And as far as Highsmith, again, he's dealing with that injury, and I'm not so sure how long that would be, but you can probably expect 51 to get a lot more playing time out there. Another guy who may have that shot is DeMarvin Leal. Coach Tomlin talked about what he's been able to do. You don't necessarily see him over there on the outside, but he's been working in that position.
Yeah, the position flexibility, and I think this was a really big year for DeMarvin Leal. Not happy with what he put on tape, or didn't get a chance to put on tape, I should really say, last season. Just changing the way his body looks, getting into shape, the conditioning, and then being position flexible. It really makes a difference whenever it's a numbers game on game day and you're trying to figure out how many players you need at each position.
Another thing that Tomlin talked about was the inside linebackers. And, it seems like the Steelers have forever chased that position, what with the injury to Ryan Shazier, but now Patrick Queen is there. And it was interesting talking about he didn't know who was going to quarterback each side of this, season when he got into training camp. Quarterback on the offense, quarterback on the defense, but Queen has been terrific. And this was his best game, Missy, where he had 8 tackles. I think he had 6 in the first 2 games combined.
Yeah, defensive coordinator Terrell Austin last week was asked specifically about Queen, when are those splash plays going to come? And he said, it's just like Minka, they'll come, but the fact that he's able to be that green dot, the hub of communication, and to be out there the whole time, letting Landon Roberts be the tooth chipper, as Coach Tomlin called him, and being able to see rookie Peyton Wilson in there as well. I just think for Patrick Queen, it was definitely, as you said, his best performance so far in the black and gold, and that will just continue.
They shut down Dobbins last week. They got Jonathan Taylor this week. And Missy, he did not play against the Steelers last year. You know how good he is and what he can do. I would imagine that's going to be as difficult an assignment as this Dobbins one was.
Yeah, and I think, the Steelers defense is up for that challenge. They talked about it all last week heading into the game with the Chargers, the leading rusher coming to Pittsburgh, but also Anthony Richardson wasn't the quarterback last year either. So knowing that both of those guys, that 1-2 punch will be there, the Steelers defense, I'm sure, already watching film and scheming up and planning on how they'll hopefully stop them on Sunday.
Yeah, Richardson uses a lot of that RPO stuff, and Jonathan Taylor is good about it because you have to key on him, but Richardson, who's had his ups and downs, he has the legs to make things happen. They've seen that a little bit with Bo Nix. He has the ability to do that, but this is a different level. This is more like a Justin Fields guy who can move, but he has thrown a lot of interceptions, 5s in the last 2 games. So I think the Steelers want to get him in uncomfortable positions, however they can achieve that.
Yeah, and we've seen, the amount of picks they've been able to get so far through 3 games, just what the new pieces, the Dante Jacksons, Deshaun Elliott's of the Steelers defense adding to an already really great core group. So hopefully that's something where if you can make the quarterback uncomfortable, you're able to stop the run a little bit easier.
Yeah. Having said that, when you watch Richardson, you get the full experience of his. He can really throw the ball down the field with a lot of velocity accurately or not. So I think this is something the Steelers have to be aware of as they get set for the Colts coming up here on Sunday, 1 o'clock. KDK, our coverage begins at 11:30 a.m. And this is what I'm talking about. He can do that, but he can also throw the ball for grabs. I saw last week once where he threw in the triple coverage. So the more you can confuse a young quarterback, the better it is. And as Coach Tomlin said, he only has 8 starts.
Yeah, and the Steelers defense, I think that's something that they are up for the challenge for and can get ready for. And I think just watching them continue to grow as a unit, and especially their performance in the second half against the Chargers, just making it such a stark difference from what happened with Dobbins and the run game in the first.
All right, Missy and I return with some final thoughts and injury update as we continue right here on KDK Plus and Steeler Digital platforms.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Honor Museum.
Now this is the best era.
I couldn't agree more. Those teams were unstoppable.
The teams were really good in the 90s.
Come on, you couldn't catch those teams of the 2000s. Literally.
The 70s were the best.
No way, the 2000s.
Whoa, stop fighting. I think every era was pretty sweet.
You said it, kid. Hope you guys enjoy yourselves.
Wait, you're T?
Nick, did you guys kind of smell blood in the water late in that game? Just get after him?
I mean, we were just all playing off each other, man. You know, it's a team game. Our offense is running that ball. We was getting after the quarterback. DBs are holding it down. PQ, E-Rob coming up, hitting. You know, that's all we can ask for, a team ball right there.
Much was made about the challenge you guys faced on the perimeter. There were those 2 tackles you guys are going up against. Talk to us about what the preparation was like this week and how you think you handled it.
Yeah, I think, I know we have the best edge rusher in the whole entire world, TJ Watt. You know, he's the best in the business, man. And, you know, at the end of the day, he's going to do what he does. We play off each other, man. We feed off that energy. You know, it's a team game.
How was your first sack when you got in there? The first one deep in.
Oh, man. I was hoping I fell on that ball, but, you know, fortunately they got it back. But, yeah, it's a good feeling for sure.
Nick, a team game, but how about your individual performance? Can you just talk a little bit about
Man, I mean, I'm not too worried about that. At the end of the day, we got a dub. That's all we can ask for. You know, first one at home. Steeler Nation showed out today, for sure.
What's it been with this defense so far this season?
I think just the way we bond, man. Like, we have a tight-knit group. You know, we play off each other. You know, we got guys bringing energy. You know, I think having PQ is big time. You know, he brings a lot of energy to the group. You know, and I think we just all love to play the game of football together.
I'm critical. I don't really know. I just know that I'm going to be ready whenever my number's called. And I was excited for the opportunity, and I know I'm able to handle it. And so it was an exciting opportunity.
What's it say about this offense that you guys have been able to execute these varied game plans where some weeks you're not throwing in the middle of the field at all and you have weeks like this?
I think it's a credit to Art. I mean, I think he trusts who we have on the offense, and I think he's comfortable putting us in spaces to succeed. And, I think he's done a great job, and we guys continue to build from there.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
All right, welcome back, everyone. A quick recap of the injuries. Same plan this week for Russell Wilson. He'll be limited in practice tomorrow. Justin Fields singularly focused on being the Steelers starter once again this week. Sounds like Michael Pruitt, Corey Trice, and Alex Highsmith will be out. And then Isaac Seumalo, who we have yet to see, hopefully getting him back soon, and Jalen Warren, questionable, you could say. We're going to see what happens during practice.
One guy who has not been questionable, he's at exclamation point, is Cam Hayward. He continues to do this. A lot of people wondered about how many years he can keep doing it. I mean, most guys at this age don't do it. Here he is, number 2 all-time on the Steelers sack list. Very impressive numbers.
Yeah, able to pass James Harrison. He got the full sack, so TJ Watt just a half sack away from 100.
And I'm sure that'll be taken care of this week. He's going to have opportunities, you would think, against the Indianapolis Colts. The Steelers looking to go 4-0, and can't help but notice the rest of this division is really struggling. And last night, Cincinnati, man, took another home loss.
Yep. You stack wins however you can. Helps to do it earlier in the season, especially when you know you don't see a division opponent until week 11. And the back end of that schedule is it's rough.
It's a rough one, so build up as much as you can early, insulation-wise, and the Steelers are doing that. 3-0, looking to go 4-0. For Missy Matthews, I'm Bob Pompiani. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week.